I don't know if I ever told this story on one of my videos, but I'm going to tell it now. If I'm telling it twice, uh, I'm sorry. I don't like speaking about topics twice, uh, unless I have something to add to it. Then I will speak about it again. But I try not to copy myself or go over the same ground twice. I like to move forward. And, but I wanted to point out that I work for an accounting firm in the city, and I work the accounting firm that one of their main clients was Local 79 and Local 78 unions. Uh, they were the people that clean up. 79 was clean up work job sites, demolition and stuff like that. And 78 was asbestos removal, and that's all they did. It was asbestos removal in Manhattan. In New York, the five boroughs mainly. I mean, they functioned all over, but not mainly in Manhattan and the five boroughs. And there's a lot of asbestos, so there was no shortage of work. But this was '98 when I started working for them, and it was my last job, my last company that I worked for, and I retired in '99. But when I went in there and they trained me to do the job, they wanted me to do it on regular green line, the counting paper, and, in pencil. And what I had to do was go to companies and that work that had contracts with the union and paid their workers. The union workers would work for these companies, and they would be paid by the company. And see, there's like they would get like at that time they were getting $25 an hour, but depending on 78 or 79 it changed. But for 79 they were getting like $15 an hour in benefits. So it was really $40 an hour, with 15 being benefits, 25 being a paycheck. So I would go to the companies and make sure that the union got their $15. And that wasn't a big deal. A lot of people, the names were Russian, Polish, Kozowski, and things I couldn't even pronounce. I couldn't pronounce most of the names because they were Russian, or they were Polish, or they were German, or they just, and there was Spanish. There was everything. There was John Smith. There was all different types of names, but the ones that were harder to spell is the one I remember the most. But they had Social Security numbers, and we would go by the Social Security number. And a lot of times the Social Security number was 0000000. And there was no Social Security number, so we had that as well. But the point is, they had me writing out these names in green green line, the old accounting paper, if you ever seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And my handwriting to this day is horrible, and you would never be able to read any of those names if I had written them on a piece of paper. And then we were supposed to go through their payroll records and find all the union workers and write down their hours, and then calculate that to figure out how much benefit hours the union was due. Okay, so that's a simple version. And what I did is I went in there and I got a laptop, and I computerized. I got rid of the green paper. I computerized everything and made it easier so you could write the name in once and you wouldn't have to write it again, or the Social Security number. And you would just add the numbers in an Excel spreadsheet or a Lotus spreadsheet. But back in '98, I mean, now today it seems redundant. It's done all the time. It's done everywhere for all kinds of businesses. But when '98 they weren't doing it, it was very unheard of. And as an accounting firm, where they get paid by the hour, or they bill by the hour, they don't want to speed things up. They don't want to make things easier. They don't want to. The harder, the longer, the better. And they didn't like what I was doing, and they put roadblocks in my way. You know, I asked for a computer. They gave me a computer with the letters were worn off the keyboard, so you didn't know what letter it was because the letter that usually would tell you it was gone. You know, and the thing was archaic. It was very slow. It was very 98. Remember 98? It was very, very different world than what we have today. And so I got mad and I asked for another computer, and they're like, "Well, we're buying computers, but we don't know when." You know, it's like never. So I went to Dell and I purchased a $4,000 laptop out of my pocket to do this job. You know, and because I wasn't letting them stop me, I didn't care what they thought. You know, I was going to hand in quality work at quality speed, and that was just my rationale. I'm not doing it your way, and uh, my bosses, they had a reason for not liking what I was doing, but they liked what I was doing because they liked my work. They liked that they could read the names. They liked that I changed the expense sheet and the time sheet, which if you work for any public firm or any firm, everybody has an expense sheet or a time sheet, and they would fill it out by hand or pencil. And after it went through the archaic fax machine, it was just a black blob on the other side, and nobody could read anything. So I computerized the expense sheet and the time sheet, which spread throughout the whole company and the whole firm. And they saw my expense sheet and my time sheet, and they said, "Who the hell did this?" And they wanted everything done that way after that, and because that was their money. That they wanted right. That they didn't want to play with. It was their money. So, you know, that the union had a meeting with all the big bosses at my firm, and I wasn't there. I wasn't invited, but it was all about me. You know, because I heard about the meeting after it happened, and the basics of the meeting was we want everything that you hand us to be of. My name's Jay, so I went by Jay, and we want everything to be of Jay's caliber, Jay's quality. You have to hand us Jay's quality work, or we're finding a new accounting firm within. You have 6 months to do this. If you don't do it within 6 months, we're going to be looking for a new accounting firm. So I changed their whole system. I changed everything they did. All the people that I worked, that were my coworkers, they had to get laptops. They had to learn how to use a laptop because a lot of them were old men, had been doing paper and pen for many years. So some even had to be fired because they couldn't evolve. So, you know, and it was just, I wasn't gonna do it their way. I did it my way. And a lot of the old guys liked what I did because they liked it. They didn't have to rewrite the name 100 times because every week that the paycheck came up, they had to rewrite the Polish name, you know, over and over. And there was no way of avoiding that. But with the computer, you could just write it once and copy paste or whatever. And so they liked the changes. They weren't against the changes. The corporate, the firm, the partners, they were against it because it cut into their billing, you know, and that's all they cared about. So it was a different dynamic in that way. But, you know, after I was done making those changes, I retired. I retired from accounting in general. I retired from the workforce. I just left. And the big reason I left the accounting firm is because I wasn't going to sit there and just input names and numbers, and that wasn't for me. That's not my speed, you know. I don't know. I create and I change, and that's what I do. And if I can't do those things, I have to leave, you know. And you think I would have an easy time getting a job because I'm smart, I know what I'm doing. But I don't. I don't like fighting it. And I don't really, I never tried to get a job after that. But I know without, like the old saying is, you're overqualified for the job. I know I would get that. But the point is, if you're going to hire me, and anybody who looks at hiring me, they're looking at the fact that I'm going to take their job. I'm going to get them fired. And that's the biggest fear they have when they think of hiring me, is that I'm going to take their job. So don't think that your boss hired you because you're smart. They hired you because they can control you, and they're not afraid of you taking their job. And that's the most important reason they hired you. If they thought you were smart, if they thought you had a potential to take their job, you wouldn't have gotten hired. They're not going to tell you that, but that's the truth. And I ran into that a lot, and sometimes you get someone who takes a chance on you. It was very hard for me to get a job in a public accounting firm, and I only got one because I got a connection that got me in, and that was why I got in there. And I didn't try to say, I can take the job. I never tried. I was offered promotions and I turned them down. I didn't want to be someone's boss. I'm not about controlling people. I'm not a control freak. I just wanted to go to work, make my paycheck, and go home. That's all I wanted. And do my thing. I wanted to do my thing. And the computer thing was doing my thing. It changed the system. It changed the way they do things. And they're still doing it today, what I changed. They're still doing that. And the big difference for the union was that when all of my reports would end up in a courtroom with a judge and two opposing lawyers. And with the older reports, the handwritten accounting paper reports, the opposite side would sit there and debate, this guy never worked for us, and these hours are wrong. And they would debate everything, and of course, the lawyers would make a lot of money, and it would cost them hours and hours of going back and forth until they can come to a number to agree to pay the union what they owed, or what they thought they owed. But when my report came in the door, they just took out their checkbook and wrote the bottom line of the report, and they didn't argue. They didn't go back and forth, and the union saw that, and that was their main motivation behind forcing the change. Again, it comes down to the bottom line. So, and they weren't concerned about the billing hours and all that, saving billing hours or anything like that. They just wanted a good job done for the money they paid, and they deserve that. They don't deserve anything less. They're paying real money, and they deserve real work and real results, and that's what I gave them. So, life is what it is, and there's certain things you can't change. If you're white, you're white. If you're blonde, you're blonde. You can change your blonde, but eventually you're gonna have to not dye your hair, because dyeing your hair hurts your hair a lot. So you can escape it for so long. You can go get a tan, but eventually the tan's gonna go away, and you're gonna be back to being white. So, you can't escape who you are. And I'm very smart. I think differently than everybody else, and I think you can see that with my videos. And I'm just trying to help you think different than everybody else, because as long as you think like the masses, you're never going to amount to anything. And I'm not saying, don't watch my videos in the sense that you're going to make money from what my teachings are. I'm not here to make you money. I'm here to free you from your own self. And if you make money doing that, that's great. More power to you. If you think that's important, then I don't think I've done my job. And I think you need to go rewatch my videos, because money is not important. It's your attitude, it's your perspective on money that's important. And if you have the perspective that money is important, you have the wrong perspective. And, you know, like I said, it's not going to be easy. If you're growing and you're changing and you're not crying, I've cried millions of tears in my years of changing, and I've grown from them. They haven't destroyed me, they made me stronger. But crying and being in pain and being depressed and not knowing what to do next, all the processes of growing and changing and evolving into a better person. Just like the caterpillar in the cocoon, when it's in that cocoon, it's going through a lot of pain. The transformation is very painful. And when it breaks free of the cocoon, it's very painful before it becomes butterfly and the wings come free and it starts flying. It's very painful. All that process is very painful. So if you're not going through any pain, then you're not growing. You're not evolving. You're still the caterpillar, afraid to become a butterfly. And I just want to invite you to become a butterfly and not be afraid. You have nothing to fear. Pain, yeah, but it goes away. It's not going to last forever. It goes away. And when you get on the other side, you'll be much happier. It's like when you swim across a big river. It's hard, it's dangerous, but you'll get there. And when you get there, you'll be like, oh, why didn't I do it sooner? Why did I wait so long? You know, and there's that too. So enjoy your future, enjoy your life. You only get one. If you get 2 or 3 or whatever it is, you reincarnation, all that, that's fine. But you live in this life now, so enjoy this life. Don't worry about resurrection or anything like that. Just enjoy your life now. And be true to yourself. Bye.